The next group of connective tissues are dense connective tissues. And dense connective tissue, remember, means that there is very little space between the cells and the fibers. And they're going to be organized based on the direction of the fibers. That's why this particular one is called regular, because all of the fibers go in one direction. So the description is that they are primarily parallel collagen fibers. There's few elastic fibers, and the major cell type is a fibroblast. Their function is that they attach to muscles and bones. So we would find them in tendons, ligaments, and what are called aponeuroses. And aponeuroses is a new term. You'll see it again when we get to chapter 10, but it is a flat tendon. So places that we would find this would be in around joints, not the joint capsule itself, but in the bones and the muscles. So a ligament is what's going to attach a bone to a muscle, and a tendon is going to be attaching muscles, anchoring muscles. So in this exact micrograph, we see dense, regular connective tissue. It has these collagen fibers predominantly, and then the cells are the fibroblasts. And again, when you see blast, you need to remember that those are immature cells. So whether it's a chondroblast or an osteoblast or a fibroblast, as in this case, they are immature cells. The next example of a dense connective tissue is irregular. And irregular, again, is going to describe the direction of the collagen fibers. So it's irregularly arranged collagen fibers. There's a few elastic fibers, but mostly collagen fibers. And the major cell is a fibroblast. The function is that it withstands tension exerted in many directions. So that's the advantage of having irregular connective tissue fibers to provide that additional stretch so that it can withstand pulling in different directions. So it makes it perfect for a joint capsule. So the location are fibrous capsules of organs and joints. Another location is the deeper part of the dermis, which you'll learn about in chapter 5, and the submucosa of the digestive tract. So within the shoulder joint, the fibrous joint capsule itself is going to have this dense, irregular connective tissue. So there's nuclei of the fibroblast, and then there's the collagen fibers, which you can see are going in different directions. They're certainly not parallel like they were in the last image that we looked at for dense, regular connective tissue. So when you consider the anatomy, think about why you would have that anatomy. The third type of dense connective tissue is called elastic connective tissue. So it's dense, regular connective tissue with a high proportion of elastic fibers. So instead of having collagen, like we've seen previously, we're going to have mostly elastic fibers. And this is going to be in areas where there's going to be a lot of quick expansion and recoil of tissue. So it allows the tissue to recoil after stretching. So it's perfect for maintaining pulsatile flow of blood through arteries. And it also is in the lungs as it aids passive recoil of lungs following inspiration, breathing in. So the location of it are in walls of large arteries within certain ligaments associated with the vertebral column and walls of the bronchial tree. So a great place that we see it is in the aorta. After all, the aorta has the highest blood pressure in the body. As soon as the blood comes out of the left ventricle, it's the highest possible pressure. It goes out the aorta. So that aorta needs to respond to very high blood pressures. And a dense, elastic connective tissue is perfect for that. The next three that we're going to look at are cartilage. And cartilage is going to be very specific because it's going to have these chondrocytes here. And the chondrocytes, to me, they look like they have little eyeballs in them. So that's the way that you can remember them. And those chondrocytes are not going to be in any of the other connective tissues. So out of the 11 types of connective tissues, only 3 of them are going to be hyaline. So we're in the subcategory of cartilage, and hyaline is the most common type of cartilage. It's amorphous, but it has a firm matrix. The collagen fibers form an imperceptible network, so we don't really notice them as much as we did in other types of connective tissue. Those chondroblasts produce the matrix, and when they're mature, they lie in the lacunae. And the lacunae are basically a space or a cavity for either a chondrocyte or for a mature bone cell. And we'll talk more about that term as we get to chapter 6, especially. And again, remember the suffix "site" means mature, and the suffix "blast" means immature. So the function of hyaline cartilage is that it supports and reinforces. It's a resilient cushion and resists compressive stress. Forms most of the embryonic skeleton. It covers the ends of long bones in joint cavities, forms costal cartilage of the ribs, cartilage of the nose, trachea, and larynx. So it's very, very abundant. And as we begin development, most of the embryo is going to be cartilage. But then certain parts of that developing embryo and then fetus are replaced by bone. But as adults, we still have hyaline cartilage in certain parts of the body. So the chondrocyte, the mature cartilage cell, is in a lacuna, which is a space or a cavity. So we're going to see the same thing when we get to bone cells. The second type of cartilage is elastic cartilage. Again, this is not the same thing as dense elastic connective tissue. And you know that because there are the chondrocytes in the lacuna. But since it's elastic, it's going to have predominantly elastic fibers. So it's going to look quite a bit different. It's similar to hyaline cartilage, but there's more elastic cartilage instead of collagen. Maintains the shape of a structure to allow great flexibility. And one place we would find it is in the external ear, also called the pinna, and the epiglottis. Then finally, the third type of cartilage is what's called fibrocartilage. This is the strongest type of cartilage. So it has thick collagen that predominates. So remember, in hyaline cartilage, you really don't see the collagen, but in elastic cartilage, you certainly see a lot of elastic fibers. And in fibrocartilage, you see a lot of collagen fibers. It's also the strongest, so its function is tensile strength that allows it to absorb compressive shock. So the location for it would be in places like the intervertebral disc, which acts as a shock absorber. Also, what's called the pubic symphysis between the two pubic bones, and the menisci, which are the disc of the knee joint as well. So fibrocartilage is the strongest of all three types of cartilage.